do that, we've got our DG in the Department of Finance, Mr. LUNGISA FUZILE, who has been with the National Treasury for about 14 years now, where he started as the Deputy Director in that department. We would then like to invite the DG to come over, and once the DG is finished, we'll have him stay on stage with us whilst we invite the next speaker so that we can handle questions again like we did in the previous session together with the speaker that is going to follow. DG, welcome and thank you very much.
Program Director, ladies and gentlemen, perhaps I should declare up front that we don't have a deal with the Program Director that I'm going to stay after speaking. I would have loved to, but I've got a very important urgent commitment in Pretoria at 3:30. Now, I suspect that if I stay, I won't make it. And even someone who has been in his job for 14 years, like I've been, you have got to take it seriously, because at a time when people are talking about realigning the institution that you work for, you might just be the first casualty of that realignment. Program Director, it's indeed a great pleasure for me to be here with all of you this afternoon at this second Annual Audit Committee conference. And knowing as I do that auditors and internal auditors are very serious people, very professional people who don't mix business with pleasure, I'm going to attempt this afternoon to pretend to be very serious and stick to this speech quite slavishly. So let me try. So everything I'm going to say here is very serious. Except for some of the giggling that you have heard now, I hope there won't be any more giggling. Ladies and gentlemen, information lies at the heart of the theory of and effectiveness of the functioning of modern economies, especially market-based economies. The myriad of economic and financial transactions that take place within an economy and between countries, and the pricing of those transactions invariably depends on the availability, timely, of good quality information. The pricing of assets and other financial instruments in financial markets also depends on information. And indeed, imperfect information, or information asymmetry, as economists call it, undermines the efficiency of markets. It leads to inefficiency in the allocation of resources and can culminate in suboptimal outcomes. Information is also indispensable to regulators such as the South African Reserve Bank, the Financial Services Board, and other regulators that we know of in our economy. Quality information is also important to people like myself, except that I've been de-skilled over time now. Economists use information to try and predict the future. Often, when we table a budget, one of the most hotly debated subjects is the accuracy or otherwise of our focus, which of course depend a lot on the historical data that we use to predict that future. Perhaps more seriously, information plays a very important part in other human endeavors too. At the core of the very important subject of dating, for an example, is the transmission and interpretation of information by two people who would like to embark on a romantic journey. But in human behavior, what you see is not what you always get. And that is why multitudes of ladies sometimes end up kissing many frogs before they find their prince. Ladies and gentlemen, I said this was a serious matter. I'm not expecting any giggling or laughing. Only if there was a less costly way of getting access to audited information about the fellow who is after one's heart. Of course, this is a very biased view of the world. It assumes that it must be a man who proposes, but in the modern world, we know that the opposite also happens. Financial markets, ladies and gentlemen, indeed, all markets depend for their efficient functioning on the availability of information that participants in those markets can trust. Seen this way, the reason for the existence of the audit profession is based on the trust and confidence that participants in financial markets have on the profession, or more specifically, the outputs that the profession produces. Your profession owes its origin to the separation of the ownership and the management of companies. The separation created a need, or a market, so to speak, for independent and informed opinions about the financial affairs of a company whose day-to-day running owners had entrusted to professional managers. Some of them would be in the room here, I would guess. For this arrangement to work, however, owners must have confidence in the work of those who have been given the responsibility to provide independent and informed opinion on the state of the company's financial affairs. And of course, this would include other affairs as well. Therefore, the relevance of your profession is and will remain tied up with retaining this confidence. These past few weeks, we have had examples of how books have been cooked or numbers manipulated so that particular transactions look better than they actually are. I have been asked to speak, as the program director indicated, on the topic of how audit committees in South Africa can help maintain the global competitiveness that South Africa has earned in relation to reporting and disclosure. Let me start with a brief description of competitiveness so that we're on the same page insofar as what we're talking about. There are other measures, of course, or descriptions of competitiveness other than the one that I am going to give here, which is borrowed from the World Economic Forum, which defines competitiveness as a set of institutions, policies, and factors that determine the level of productivity of a country. It goes on to describe competitiveness as the level of productivity which in turn then sets the level of prosperity that a nation or an economy can earn. The productivity level then also determines the rate of return that are obtained from investments that are made in a particular economy. So in other words, a more competitive economy can sustain higher growth levels and of course ensure that those who invest in that economy derive higher benefits than those who invest in less competitive economies. So the WEF measure, which is applied to 144 countries, including our own, has several measures that it utilizes, or pillars, as they call them. These are institutions, infrastructure, the macroeconomic environment, health and primary education, higher education and training, efficiency of goods markets, labor market efficiency, a subject that we don't like talking about too much in this country, of course. So we forget it immediately after saying financial market development, technological readiness, market size, business sophistication, and innovation.